Obviously, they're.
All right. Yep.
Why
Good
not?
evening, it's the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight is February 21st, 2019, it's 7:15 PM. We're at the Littleton Town Offices at 37 Shattuck Street, Room 103, Littleton. We have only one item on the agenda tonight, the applicant's not here yet, but so far we only have two members and two alternates, so it's a four-person board, so if anyone requires a decision tonight, they're going to need 4 out of 4 vote, unless anybody else walks in for an alternate. I think the members have called in that the other 3 members won't be able to make it tonight. And the first thing on the agenda are the minutes from, it looks like, January 2018 is the first set, and we're catching up to one that I believe we reviewed, but it never got back here for a re-review. So has anyone taken the time to review these, and would you like to comment? January 2018. I think they were well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I have one question on the last page.
Yeah.
I don't remember saying that I do not like being directed by the Board of Selectmen. I might have said about not liking to be threatened by the Housing Court, but I don't think I said directed by the Board of Selectmen. So I'd almost suggest just
We
taking
can
those.
just take that out. I
taking
think that's
those out,
reasonable.
yeah.
So
I mean,
Rod's-
not that I remember a year from now, but I can't
Yeah,
imagine I
Rod
said that.
Stewart stated this has been going on since 2004. And a year ago, we said this is it. He does not like being threatened about housing court. Can you leave it like that?
Yeah, I can leave that in, because I might have said that, but take the Board of Selectmen statement out.
He's frustrated and is voting no. And on 2 pages earlier, or probably throughout, housing court, I would capitalize, because the housing court is like saying the Superior Court. It's an appellate court for the 40Bs. Okay? Anyone else?
No,
Can I take a motion, please, to approve the minutes as amended?
as amended, so moved.
Second,
Second.
John Sewell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's January. There, we caught up. No, we're up to August of 2018. And I had a couple of really simple comments on this one. Could you please add, under case 898A, Chair Gould appointed Jillian, it's there already, sorry. I was writing something else down. 2 places where you said a letter from the abutter was read, and later on where you said Chair Gould read the comments. I don't care about this one, but in the future, just in favor or against, just so somebody reading this can tell without having to go and pull the record.
These were Shelley's old.
Yeah.
but That's fine.
Okay, and leave this one, don't go back looking forward this time.
Okay.
Just in the future, if you're referencing somebody's letter, comment, or statement on the floor, the reader of this should know whether it was positive or negative, maybe detailed if necessary, okay?
Okay.
And
We're gonna
also on
vote
this-
on it?
On the
Yeah.
second page, the next to the last sentence in the first paragraph, and somehow I think it might say the request will not decrease the reduced setback, not increase the reduced setback. Does that make sense? Or not decrease the front setback, something like that.
Okay.
But increase the reduced, that sounds kind of weird.
Oh, increase the reduced.
Yeah, I think maybe
Will not,
decrease the reduced.
will not,
Decrease instead of increase.
yeah, will not decrease the front setback.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah.
that sounds better, you're right. Okay, I'll take a motion to approve August minutes as, Julian, you were here too, so you can make the motion.
I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 23rd, 2018,
As amended.
as amended.
Second,
Aye. Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we're on September 20th, 2018. This is where I'd like you to just insert, apparently there were only 4 of us that night, and so Mark and Jillian got appointed in the Todd DeNola case, and not again. And each case should cite that I appointed them as 4th and 5th voting alternates, okay?
Okay.
So the Winged Cove Road, Mark and Jillian, the 903A Neshoba Trail, Mark and Jillian. The Mill Road, 67 Mill Road was Mark and Jillian. And then it changes because then Alan came in. So 315 King appoint Jillian as the 5th voting member. And 1719 Jennifer went to Jillian and Mark, because Cheryl and I recused, okay? And then on typos on, just a couple of typos on this one. So the 815 hearing 903A. Second line down, the request is for a new landing and stairs, not if, okay? And next page, 67 Mill Road, first line, Cheryl Hollinger stated she needs to recuse herself. And that's all I had on that one. Anyone else? Motion to approve September 20th as amended?
Seconded.
No, you had to make the
You
motion.
make,
Oh, you want me, okay. I make the motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 20th, 2018 as amended.
I'm not gonna second because I wasn't there.
I wasn't here either.
Oh, so how do we do this
We'll
then?
need you to second.
Okay, I'll second it. I was in the
So
hospital.
could I vote even though I wasn't here?
Yes, we have to.
Okay, I was gonna abstain if three would do it, but if he wasn't there.
No, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, and the last set is December 20, 2018.
No, there's
There's two-
December
two
20th.
more?
More.
Two more.
I was not here for this one.
December 20th and then January 17th.
What did I do with 17? I'll have to look onto yours. Okay, December 20, 2018, I have, my first change was down in O'Connor read the notes from the zoning enforcement officer. I'd like the next line to read. Gould stated that a companion petition had been filed for hearing next month. But since petitioner and then pick up here, abutters were present, see it? On the first line there, not, you're crossing out Gould asked whether, and then you're picking up, abutters were present. Then cross out so that, and say, since abutters were present, the hearing could start tonight.
Okay.
She explained to Newfell that his house is already non-conforming, so any additional structures are in violation of setback restrictions unless permitted by variance or special permit. My memory was that he asked why, if his house was there, and why he couldn't put the pergola on, and you said to him you needed a building permit and you have
Well, I
to
said if he'd
satisfy
got a building
zoning.
permit, he would have been told why.
Right, right. And so that's really the way the conversation went, okay.
Okay.
And then, that takes care of page 1.
Is there a reason why the times for the hearings don't appear on these last 2 minutes?
Yeah, you're right, they should appear. Hearing times need to appear, okay?
Okay.
Thank you for
They were on
pointing
all
that
the
out.
other ones.
Next page, Dawn Waite, it's not M, it's N, Donald. First word, Dawn Waite.
Okay.
And then at this point, you said the hearing will be continued until Jan 17. The hearing will be continued until later in the evening. My memory was that the room was full of people and we
That
still
was the
had.
second one, I think.
Yeah,
That was
that
the
was-
last one.
Yeah, the
No, that was
continuation.
in January.
We were continuing till January, but we allowed the abutters and others to continue speaking later in the evening. And you see down below where it says case 911 continued. We
see.
did pick it
Okay.
up later in the evening.
Okay.
And then we continued at the end of that, because we put them back while
Right.
we let the McNiffs come through, if you remember that.
Right.
Because there were a lot of people for both. So right there, the hearing will be continued until later in the evening. Then, case 912A came through, and that was Shattuck Street. And in that one, I think Sewell was appointed the voting alternate, and I don't think that's in there.
Okay.
Actually, in,
Yes, I was.
you were the voting alternate, but you're not in there.
No.
And I'm sorry, but going back to 286 Goldsmith with Newfell, Kitty was the voting alternate, I think. Because we needed a voting alternate that night too, Sherry, Jeff, Alan, Rod. Okay? And then, that's 912 One Shattuck Street. When you get down to the fourth paragraph, it says abutter. Let that say, Ann abutter brought photos of
Okay.
large trucks and vehicles coming in and out all day, every day. All right? And down where it says the business being conducted does not fall under the, that word should be customary home occupation.
Okay.
And then we close the public hearing, and I think that's where it should be. No, that one's okay, that was McNiff's closing the public hearing, okay. And then 913A was 97 Mill Road again, and we just went for a continuance, and that's okay.
Can I ask a question just from, how does it work then when you close a public hearing, you don't have to vote on the issue, or you don't have to see that it's been continued to another meeting?
Once the hearing is closed, there are strict timelines for when we have to issue a decision.
Okay,
And it's, I can't remember if it's 100 days from the filing, I think it's 100 days from the date of filing. So we could theoretically close the hearing and not deliberate it for another full month.
Okay.
We've never done that, but
Okay.
we could do that.
Okay.
Once you close the public hearing, you take no more information
Yeah.
from the abutters, from the public, from the applicant, but the board can then deliberate afterwards. So in this case, we closed it so we could take the next application in, and we could finish with Newfell.
Okay.
And then we went to the decision later in the
Gotcha.
night.
Okay.
But we did not have to continue the public hearing till later in the night. We closed it,
okay,
okay? We just had to deliberate and make a decision before that 100th day. Okay with that?
This is just a minor thing, but I noticed that we switched from yay and nay to 5:0. That kind
Well-
of thing. Not that it matters that much, but,
These older ones were Shelley's.
yeah, I
and
Newer
know.
these are
ones are
mine.
Jan.
So
Yeah.
if there's some specific way,
I don't know, I'm just praising, it doesn't bother me. Just-
What does need to happen, though, is when it's unanimous, it's fine. When it's not unanimous, we have to identify who voted which way,
And she has done that,
okay?
yeah, so that's not an issue.
913A is 97 Mill, we did that. 911A then gets continued. And you might just put a preamble sentence on the hearing for 913A resumed, okay? And then I put in here, a resident from 278 Charles Street submitted a plot plan. This plan, this plan, I would say shows a lot line dispute between the applicant and himself. What happened was that guy came and showed that almost after the hearing was ended. But since it's in here, I don't want to address what we did with it, because I don't think we did anything with it. We
didn't.
The plot plan just showed a lot line dispute. Remember,
we
it showed
looked
one
at
of the buildings over the lot line,
Yeah, the shed was over the lot line.
yeah. Or you could just say showed the shed was over the lot line, okay?
okay.
I think it came into our discussion, I guess it was in next month.
At the next meeting.
Yeah, we
but
didn't
it
know at
didn't
that
use
time
that
that
information.
it that it
Discussed
had
there.
anything to do with the shed. All we knew was that they had had a lot line dispute, but they didn't specify.
Well, the plan showed it, though.
Right.
That's why I didn't want to have I don't want to we didn't really discuss it, but the
Right.
plan shows that.
Okay.
So that's a factual statement. The plan shows a lot line dispute, okay?
Okay.
And then the rest of it looks fine. Moved by Bill to continue till January 17th is fine. Then the 15 Great Road discussion is fine, and then 912A was back to Shattuck Street. You can't say the board is upholding the decision until we vote, so there should, in that sentence, it should say the board discussed
Okay.
upholding the decision. And then we vote it, and then we did uphold it, okay?
Okay.
Then the rest of that is fine. And anybody want to,
Accept the minutes as amended?
all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Okay, now, we'll do January, but Mr. Badger's been waiting a little while, so let me open that hearing. We'll probably have time for finishing the minutes in a minute. So at 7:30 PM, I'm opening the hearing on case number 913A, 97 Mill Road. The petitioners submitted a letter withdrawing the application. Mr. Badger, would you like to present?
Okay, basically, we had submitted plans, and in doing so, when we got the estimate for the peer review, it was almost $12,000, so we decided to put things on hold. Right now, we're contesting FEMA because we feel that the floodplain elevation is off by probably 2.5 feet, which means if they do say that we're correct, then it's gonna change a lot of the calculations and everything for the plans. And again, it'll make less restrictions on us, but it will also save cost in the long run. So now we're just in the kind of the mode of hanging, waiting to see what FEMA comes up with.
And rather than bump up against the timelines we talked about earlier from the time you open the hearing till the time you decide, and have the applicant keep waiving the timelines, I think Mr. Badger said that he would just withdraw at this point and
Yeah.
file again if and when he needs to. If FEMA's decision is favorable, you might not even have to come here, I don't know,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So everybody okay with the withdrawal? Somebody want to make a motion to accept the withdrawal
Well, do we close
without
the hearing
prejudice?
first?
Yeah, let's,
Move to close the hearing?
thank you.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then a motion to accept the withdrawal without prejudice.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming in and explaining.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Good luck with FEMA.
Yeah, good luck with FEMA.
I just think the president tweets.
Okay, I think I got one more set of minutes,
Yeah.
and I think they're here.
I have a couple. One of them is, the first one here for the sign
Oh, we're gonna do them
on Great Road, said it's gonna continue to tonight, but it's not on the agenda tonight, so.
They, you folks had talked about if they didn't make it bigger and they just adjusted the base. So they called and said, you can take the discussion off, because that's all they're gonna focus on.
Okay. Should we reflect in the minutes of today's meeting that just what you said, since this does seem to indicate it's
Okay.
continuing? So it's just a discussion.
They can feel the pulse of the board.
Okay, and then on the last page down the bottom, where the two lines up from the very bottom, where it says I abstained, you put in there, I abstained objecting to the dump truck. So there's a reason why I abstained.
I'm sorry, what page is that?
Very last page, right down here.
Oh, okay.
There was a purpose for that, that's why I want to
Okay,
make sure it's
yeah.
stated.
So you apparently read the minutes very carefully.
I actually felt like reading them this afternoon at work.
Good for you. So I'm going to trust your amendments, because I read them in order to write the decisions from them, but I spot read them, and when I went back to look tonight, I thought I had read them because they were all very familiar to me. So I didn't read them carefully. Anybody else want to make comments about them?
No, I just remembered seeing an email from one of the board members saying that they thought we hadn't approved the dump truck, and I remembered approving the dump truck.
We did approve them.
That was Cheryl, yes.
Yeah,
And
that's why I
I-
abstained, because I didn't think a dump truck was appropriate there.
Yeah, but
Well, we're not discussing.
it's a six-wheeler, it's not.
Yeah, well, that's why I chose to abstain. It didn't deny
If it was an
the
18-wheeler,
variance, but it made a
They're with you
statement.
with an 18-wheeler.
Yeah, no, I
That's a
just
different story.
wanted to make the statement, basically.
Six-wheeler is basically a pickup
Yeah.
truck. Put dump body on.
You got the decision on the tower, didn't you? Singular tower, we got that decision.
Is there any more, so I can say approve, move we approve minutes with, as amended?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay,
You want to say that?
I just did.
You second it? I'll second it.
Second. You're wise tonight. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we got through all the minutes. Are you happy now?
I'm very happy, thank you.
Boy, between the minutes and the case files, this woman is a taskmaster.
Get over it.
You know, it used to
I
be-
sent you your annual report, too.
I know, I saw that, and I didn't get that far.
I mean, I'd rather
Oh,
look
yeah,
at that one.
and the times have to be added to
I will,
that.
I did.
Times on the
That's like that,
cases.
right?
It's ugly.
We haven't had this much
It's been there forever, like,
Oh, yeah, it's been forever.
slogging since Charlotte was on the board. Remember Charlotte Rafferty used to really get upset about, get the minutes done.
That was before my time.
I like to have all my
I thought- I
Ts
remember
crossed.
when I was a
Yeah.
kid,
She
it
did
had,
too.
like,
She was very quick.
Yeah, we
And
really-
Charlotte never had
It was
computer.
like some
to do it.
government-run
She would type all
bunker,
the
and you
minutes,
like,
yeah.
couldn't, it used to be
We
hard.
really should be approving the minutes at a meeting for the previous meeting. We shouldn't be
That's how-
doing like that.
Telecommunications.
I think Shelley has one more set, and then
Yeah, I remember there used to be like cars
we'll
parked at the
be
end.
caught up.
Can you pass that over? These are fine.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, it's, Google Finder.
We have a minute. We actually have a minute, so you can continue chatting for a minute. And
I'm sorry.
No, that's all, we have to wait till the official time to
Oh,
start.
okay, we're waiting for our lawyer.
Oh, well. What dock is pay? He's out there trying to find a parking spot.
I know what's going on
Is it
tonight.
crowded?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, when I got here, it was
something in the
empty.
Cooper room.
Oh, wow.
There were like 2 cars in
I
the
got the
parking lot.
last one in front, other than the handicap spots.
Really? It really filled up?
Glad I got here early.
Oh, no, you were here before me, though.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun parking.
Well, there's several in that end, but,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
if you're not walking on a cane and trying not to walk on ice.
Yeah. Must have warmed up
That
enough
time
to
of year
melt
too.
some.
No, I noticed my driveway was,
Sure, do you
it's
have
freezing
puppies
right
right
now.
Yeah.
Are you the one that has the puppies?
For sale? I have one left.
You have one left.
I have one left. What one?
We're looking, we lost ours a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What'd
Yeah,
you
she was
have?
13.
Did you give me a
What did
discount?
you have?
We have 2 Goldens. We have 2, well, we were down to 1 now.
I have a beautiful Labradoodle, little
We want
black,
a big boy Golden. Like
little
a-
black boy with a nice white
Yeah.
neck. Very sweet dog.
I have a golden.
But it's a doodle, right? So it's got the sense of,
No, it's
good
got-
for people with allergies, right?
Yes, because it
Good
has
for
hair
people with
instead of fur.
allergies, and this one is probably gonna be flat coated. He's got that long wavy hair,
Doesn't have
not
the curly
not the curly doodle hair.
Yeah, I'll stick with the grand dog.
Yeah.
I can't go
Grand
through
dog.
the end stage. I've done that a couple times with dogs, and I can't do it again.
I need to get to the summertime. I can't take care of a puppy right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's my goldie, sitting at the top of the stairs, looking
Yeah,
at me.
yeah.
So cool.
So I don't know if you have the ability to reach your attorney, but maybe I will just announce to you that we only have a 4-member board tonight, and so any decision we make has to be 4 out of 4. Typically, what we're willing to do with with the need for a 4 out of 4 vote, typically with any board configuration, we're very agreeable to hearing your side of the case, then polling the board. And if it doesn't feel like you've got a 4 out of 4 vote, you can move to continue it, or you can request us not to decide until the next meeting when we have a 5th member who can, what's it called?
Watch the video.
Watch the video, but it's called something, I can't remember the name right
Yeah.
now. Mullinan.
What's the word?
Mullen, it's
Mullen.
after a Mullen case, which says you can miss as many as 2, as long as you catch up, you can bring yourself up to
That'll be a
speed.
Jeopardy question one day.
There you go.
Millionaire question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, would you mind explaining it to my husband?
Are you Mr. Hartwell?
Yes.
Yeah, we can't open the hearing till 7:40, well, we could open the hearing now, but you said you're waiting for your attorney.
Yeah, so just calling me back.
Hello?
All right, I'll wait.
Yes.
Right around the corner.
Okay. He's on his way.
I can hear it. I can hear the lawyer's voice.
103. 103.
I mean, the phone's cranked up so loud you can hear both sides of the conversation. It just, common decency, if you're gonna use your phone in public, you should have both loud enough so everybody can.
He just said he'll be here in about 1 minute.
I'll wait and explain to him too, to all of you at the same time, thank you. Anything else, any other news, anybody know about?
Did anybody want to register for that,
Conference.
that
Planning.
conference? I'm sorry?
The planning one.
Yeah, that I just sent
I'm
around.
still checking my schedule. I mean,
Okay.
will be
I
available.
don't think I can make that one, I put it aside because I
Okay.
couldn't make that one. But also, we are all required to do the ethics training and the
Oh, that
ethics.
darn thing again.
Don't forget to do that, I forgot.
Yeah, I did too. This
tomorrow.
weekend, well, or Sunday, because it's going to rain Sunday.
There's a link, right? somewhere?
Aren't you retired?
Yeah, it got sent over to
Aren't
us.
you retired, or you working?
Make sure
I'm
you,
still working.
you
You know, work till I'm 75.
do the blocked,
That's right.
however it tells you at the beginning, otherwise you
Pop-up
take
blocker.
the whole, right,
Yeah.
otherwise you take the whole thing and it
Could you
won't
send
let
me
you
the link?
print it out.
I don't know what it is. And I go hunting for it.
Search your email. Gee,
It is in one
you're
of
the
them.
computer wizard.
Yeah, it was in one of them.
I'm into construction.
Yeah, it came
You're a
through.
lot, you've got a lot more engineering skills than I, and I know how to search my emails, because I lose everything.
Well, she didn't delete it.
Necessity's the mother of invention. Deleted, I've got 22,000 emails. I don't
Really?
delete anything.
Yeah, you're not allowed to delete anything.
Well, I'm not running for public office.
From a practical point of view, you can't delete, it. Once it's out there, it's there forever, and it's not going away.
Yeah, it's just off your computer or off this email
Someone
server.
really knows how to find it, they will find it. That's why when I was working, if I was upset with somebody, I'd wait a day, and then I'd go talk to them in person. I would never put it in writing or an email, or yell at them in front of other
Well,
people.
the crazy thing is you get emails, reply,
Could you
finally it's like,
just
no, let's
everybody
go talk
sign
about it.
in,
Let's not
please?
put
Oh,
it in the email.
I get people, somebody sent me an email from an employee working for me, he's like 4 doors down, I'd pick up the phone and say, get off your ass and come in here.
See, I ask
I'm not
everything
doing
be
email
emailed.
traffic. I'm a baby boomer, not a millennium, get out here. I really was not big into,
Give you a minute to settle in, but we're running a little late, so I'm going to call the case, okay? You need to
If you
just
could
sign in too,
too,
please, Mr. Markey.
Thank you.
I know if I need
Attorney
something, I
Markley.
call you, you're out there, I leave a message, so you know what I'm talking about, blah, 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 but, just this concept of
Okay,
using
the time is 7:44. I'm calling the 7:40, case number 917A, 30 Dahlia Drive. The petitioners Vernon and Linda Hartwell request an appeal of the zoning officer's decision pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and/or a request for a variance pursuant to Littleton zoning bylaw, Section 17311, isolated lots and subdivision for property located at 30 Dahlia Drive, and map and parcels U17, 341, 365, and 366. Mr. Markley, will you come up and present, please, for the Hartwells? You're representing the Hartwells?
Yes.
Actually, I just need to make 2 announcements. One is that I've had dealings in the past with the Hartwells, but never on their behalf, and I have no financial interest in the outcome of this case. If anyone wants me to recuse myself, I would do so, but I don't feel that I have a need to. Everybody okay with my sitting and chairing? Okay.
There were mentioned about 4 out of 4.
Yeah, the second announcement is, there wouldn't be 4 if I had to recuse.
No, I know.
The second announcement is, you only have 4 members sitting here. This is either going to be an appeal or a variance. We need 4 out of 4 with a 5-member board. So what I said to your Mrs. Hartwell before you walked in, we have a practice here of, if you want, hearing the case, then polling the board so that you get a sense of which way these 4 members are going. And if it doesn't feel comfortable for you, you can ask for a continuance to the next meeting, where we will have a 5th member and allow someone to mull it in, and then you only need a 4 out of 5 vote. Okay?
Or just continue to next month.
Or you can
Yeah.
opt not to go forward right now and continue until next month, it's up to you.
Do you, any input from you guys?
Just one thing.
Oh, no.
No? Okay. Yeah, we'll go forward. We've waited a long time for this.
Okay. No, go ahead, sorry about that.
Oh, no, no problem. So it's, I guess I'll start with what the intention is regarding all of the lots, including 30 Dahlia Drive going forward. It is the Hartwell's intention to seek a permit to, which they'll need a special permit for lots U17, 341, 365, and 366, to sell as a single lot, separate from 30 Dahlia Drive, which is their principal residence.
What were the lot numbers?
You named 4 lots?
Yeah, that's what I was.
It's only 3.
Right, so
Said
there's,
three.
yeah, U17, 341, 365, and 366.
Oh, okay. I heard-
Separately
I'm sorry,
from-
Why don't you sit up here with
Yeah,
Mr.
go ahead.
Hartwell, and that way you don't have to come
Sure.
back and forth. And
So,
Thank you.
so separate from his residence, which is 30 Dahlia Drive, which basically abuts the other
342
three lots. Right,
And that would be 342.
correct.
343, right?
No,
No, 3.
No, it's just 342.
Is there anything right?
yeah, that's my one.
343.
Go ahead.
So, we're requesting that there be a determination that those 3 lots are a separate single lot, separate from 30 Dahlia Drive. Although, if necessary, and if for procedural purposes, if the ZBA were to find that there actually was a merger of all 4 lots, we would at that point seek some kind of input as to a subdivision of the new large lot to take out the 3 lots that are not 30 Dahlia Drive. I hope I am making sense when I say that.
What would be the total area of all of the lots if they merged?
17,600 square feet.
All of
The
them
3
together.
The 3 lots that I
Right,
want
and
to sell.
there's enough
I wanna-
frontage.
I'm sorry, please answer the question again. I said, what would be the area of all 4 lots if they had merged?
27,600 square feet.
Okay. And what is the area of the 3 lots if your argument is that they didn't merge? What's their area?
17,600 square feet.
Thank you. Okay, keep going, Mr. Murphy.
Well, that's essentially it in a nutshell.
All right, if it please you and the board, I'd like to review for the board members, especially the newer members, some law and case law relative to this whole doctrine of merger, because it's a very complicated set of laws. So first of all, Littleton has 1-acre zoning. And the doctrine of merger says that if you own a piece of land that is not the full acre, and you purchase another piece of land that is contiguous to it, and you control both of those parcels, they're deemed to have merged by virtue of the fact that once they're put together, they can never be pulled apart again until it totals that full acre. Now, there are several exceptions to the rule in the doctrine of merger, and I will try to explain to you what they are, having been on both sides of this doctrine. One exception to the rule in the case law, very seldom used anymore, is that if you literally kept it separate and intended to keep it separate, you might have even had a fence between the two, you never mowed the other lawn together at the same time, and everything in your behavior about the 2 lots was kept separate, you might argue that they didn't merge because you never allowed them to merge. That might be one argument. Another argument about the doctrine of merger, if they are held in separate entities. So in this case, I believe, if I'm not misspeaking, Mr. and Mrs. Hartwell own 342, and a trust owns 341, 6, and 5. And that has been the case since day one. It's not as if Mr. and Mrs. Hartwell owned them all and then slid something into a trust to keep the merger doctrine away from their door. They purchased, it looks like, the other three in a trust, separate and apart from their own names. So the first thing that the courts look to is who has control over the trust. They say if Mr. and Mrs. Hartwell can control 342, and Mr. and Mrs. Hartwell can control the vacant lots, then they're deemed to have merged, even though they used a nominee entity with a separate name. I don't know the facts yet. We're going to inquire, as a board, we'll inquire about the facts of who are the trustees and who are the beneficiaries and who controls the trust, because that's significant. There's also been exceptions we've been successful to using when, for instance, the titles merge, but they merge because there was a death in the family, and so the recipient of the title got it without really having any affirmative action to take it and merge it. And we've been successful with that. And the other thing about the doctrine of merger that I argue all the time, not always successfully, but if you read the case law of the doctrine of merger, which is referenced by counsel here, that case law didn't involve a simple situation where you owned one lot and you bought this other lot as an investment for your children to build on when they were mature, or investment for your parents. That case didn't come down that way. The way that case came down is that Mr. X owned a whole bunch of land together, and he saw a zoning change coming down the pike, and so he and his wife quickly checkerboarded. You own this one, I'll own this one, you own this one, I'll own this one, you own this one, and we'll have a trust own that one. And that's the way that case came down. And if you read that case, in my mind, it's very different than Mr. Homeowner trying to eke out a living and preserve something for an investment for himself for later. So that's just a backdrop of the doctrine of merger. The other thing that I argue successfully in this community a lot is, believe it or not, in the 60s, I've mentioned it here before, the town adopted a Zone A and a Zone B for zoning. And they never said how many square footage or acres Zone A and Zone B would get. And they never prepared a map to say this will be Zone A and this will be Zone B. So I argue that in that time frame, if any of these transferred title or were, quote, deemed to have merged in that time frame, it couldn't have happened because there was no zoning in place. Without the map, you didn't know what was what. And so I would argue there was no zoning in that short period of time. Again, not
What was the
always,
years for that?
not always successfully. I think it was 61 through 7 or 61 through 8. But these are all little tools I use when I'm on Mr. Markley's side of this argument. And then finally and last, I did have a conversation with the town council on a client of mine, not the Hartwells, about his feeling that the doctrine of merger in Littleton was a lot less stringent than the case law made it in the 80s. So a lot of times he'll look at something before the 80s with a little less adherence to that stringent, it merged, there's no two questions about it. So there are periods in the 60s and periods in the 70s where I've seen a little more latitude employed. Okay. That's the backdrop of the doctrine of merger. Now, what we have here, as I was trying to study this, is an interesting other side fact. And that is that 2 of these lots came from land purchased at tax title and sold by the town of Littleton in the tax title program.
Correct. Yes.
And very often, the town will include a deed restriction in those tax title lots that you have to merge it with your abutting parcel, or that it's not buildable forever. And I looked at your deeds tonight, if I can remember where I put my pile, and it was curious about one of these anyway.
I thought one had it.
What they said was, They're presently unbuildable, but they said, this is interesting. Here, acknowledgement and agreement, and it was signed by the town and the Hartwells, and it said, number 5, the deed from the town will contain restrictions that provide substantially as follows. The conveyance is made pursuant to the abutter lot sales program and is subject to the following restrictions. Premises to be kept free of garbage and debris. Have you complied with that?
Yes. In fact, they're very clean.
And, and interesting, the premises shall be combined for purposes of future conveyances with the abutting property owned by the grantee located at U 17-341.
Which is the other,
It's
one
like
of
an
the
L
other
shape
small
if you
lots.
put the two
Yeah,
together.
Yes.
and U 17-366,
Right.
and that was for lot 365.
So all three of those small lots have already merged. The question is, did that new glob of those 3 lots merge with 30 Dahlia Drive?
So when did he buy 30 Dahlia Drive?
Back in 81.
So is that before or after the town's, by the town's own?
Before.
It was the first.
So you already own Dahlia, and the town never said to you, merge it with your existing lot?
Because we put it into a land trust. The lawyer, William Barton, put it in the first lot that I bought from a Pauline Hooper. He put it into a land trust. So he told me, so it can't be merged with my property.
Right.
At 30 Dahlia Drive.
So 30 Dahlia was purchased first, and then the other 3 lots were purchased at various times.
Into the land
afterwards.
trust.
Right.
And
those
so the
3
town never said, merge it with your home. The
No.
town always said, merge it with the other 2 substandard lots. Now, I'm sorry, there's one other thing you all need to know, and that is, in order to get approval as a small lot, a grandfathered lot that didn't merge, we need at least 5,000 square feet and at least 50 feet of frontage. Those are the rules, that's Mass General laws. And I think that they satisfy that with these 3 lots.
Correct.
So the only question is whether or not we're going to find that they merged and enforce the decision of the building inspector, or if they have merged, grant a variance, which is, you've asked for the alternative relief either way. There's one other thing that I don't understand, and that is in the narrative that I read from your offices to the attorney, you said, do not qualify for separate lot protection in your first paragraph.
Right, that was incorrect. It was done in some haste, unfortunately. So,
You may want to put something into our record that says that that was a mistake, and that your argument is that they do qualify.
right.
But now, let's go one more little sidestep here, and then I want to open it up to my board. Attorney Harrington's letter to the zoning officer says, he concluded that the merger doctrine applies in this case because, I think he says in the second to last paragraph, Vernon and Lisa Hartwell own one parcel individually and are both trustees and beneficiaries of the realty trust that owns the abutting vacant parcels. Accordingly, the vacant lots have merged with the developed parcel at 30 Dahlia Drive and are no longer independently buildable. But he says, I should note that before making this determination, I asked counsel on 2 separate occasions to share any facts that might show these parcels were not effectively under common control, and no such information was provided.
Well, I'd sent him previously, I believe, a copy of the trust. There weren't really any other supporting.
What does the trust say for trustees and beneficiaries?
They are the same. Linda and Vernon Hartwell are the beneficiaries and trustees of the Rainy Day Trust. But there wasn't any other documentation that I could provide. I mean, the deeds are what the deeds are.
Okay.
We were reading from that claim deed. I have a question on the third point.
Yep.
It says that, it's talking about lot 365, which is the big one in the corner.
No,
On
it's the
back,
little
the
one.
back.
It's talking about lot
365.
365, is the little skinny one.
So it's being, so in this case, which lot is it being attached to, considered being the,
41, isn't it? 341.
So there's
Could I see
341,
the map so I could show you?
yeah, it's 341, 365, and 366.
John, I circled it here. Can you pass that to John? I crosshatched the house.
To 341 and 341 and, in 366?
yeah, 366.
Okay. It's those three lots together.
So 66 was the tax levy, right? And 41 and 65 were butters lots?
Right. And then 30 Dahlia Drive is the corner
Their
lot.
property
Right,
that
which
they
is
live
the
in, yeah.
primary
Our house
residence.
is our mailing address.
Can we confirm just so that I can understand the timeline, 41 and 65 were purchased together prior to 66, correct? And they were purchased at,
No, hang on.
No.
okay.
They were, all three lots that I'm trying to get, so I can sell as a building lot, were purchased three different times.
Right, so which one was first?
Three,
The first
six,
one was the one that actually butts my
341.
property.
341 was first,
341.
okay.
Right.
And that was in a butters lot that you purchased?
Yes, from a
From the town?
person.
Okay.
Then the
From the
next
person or
lot,
from the town?
An individual.
an
An
individual
individual.
from the town. She lived in Tewksbury.
That was Pauline?
Pauline
So it
Burke.
wasn't purchased from the town, it was
No.
purchased from, okay. So that was purchased from someone, okay.
Correct.
And then 365 is next, right?
Is that the corner lot on
That's the,
Washington? and
no,
Dahlia?
that's the little one
Grove?
behind it.
No, that was the third lot. that
Okay,
I
so
purchased.
366 is next, that's the corner
Right,
lot?
and then
Right.
365
And that was the
is
tax
third.
levy, right?
Right,
And then 365 came next?
Yes.
And that was from the town?
Right.
yes.
And that was in a butters lot?
Correct.
Okay.
go back to the tax levy lot.
366 is the corner tax levy lot.
Wait, 360,
The big corner ones,
One second.
366.
365 is purchased from the Board of Selectmen
Right.
under the Abutters Program in
366, right?
in 2013. 365 is 2013.
Remember what year.
And that's the one they're saying, when they purchased that, it combined the other two lots with it,
As a condition of the
as a
purchase.
condition of the
Where did we buy the
purchase.
366 from?
That was from the town, but it was a tax levy.
Right,
I mean,
it was-
anybody can buy a tax levy,
Right, so there were three different dates for the purchases. Two were from the town. One was from the individual, the first.
Okay.
And then they're saying 341 was bought in 1989, and that was from that Hooper.
Right.
And then they're saying 366 was bought in 1990 from the town. Now, also, the deed into you for 360,
You want the-
365 says Vernon as trustee of the Rainy Day Realty Trust. It does not say Vernon and Linda. Are you the sole trustee of the Realty Trust?
No, my wife is, it's both my wife and I. I just don't know, I don't know why they did that.
How long has the merger doctrine been established since?
He cites the case. Did he give us the date on that case
he
in his
did.
letter?
It was, the earlier one was 1989, the Norwell versus Serena.
89, and your deed that touches 341 was purchased in 89. So you were using the the case law before Norwell, when Barton concluded that if you bought that in a trust, it wouldn't merge. So he was relying upon good, solid legal case law in '89 to put that in a trust, because that would have worked before Norwell. That's what bothers me about this merger doctrine, is that it's almost like being applied retroactively to people that wouldn't have known any better themselves, and there's no way their lawyer would have kept track of, gee, all the people I put in trust, I gotta call up now because Norwell just came down, you know what I mean? So they're caught unawares, really. I see an abutter in the room, or somebody who has an interest. Do you want to speak to this? Are you an abutter, are you a,
Yes, so I'm in a butter, I'm actually on 39 Dahlia Drive.
where's 39 from them?
So it'd be uphill on Dahlia, across the street.
Okay,
So I think my principal interest is just getting a feel for what the purpose of the development would be, and how many homes, or is that a completely separate issue? that
no, that's a
comes
very
later?
good question. If the applicant is successful in his petition today, whether it's by overturning the building inspector or by variance, he could only build one house. That's it. And then the question would be whether he can get a septic system, and the septic system would be reviewed, and you would be, if there are any variances, you would be notified of that process. And if you are down gradient from that and you're worried about any runoff, you would go to that board and make your concerns known at that board. But if you're on Dahlia, are you at the corner of Dahlia and Grove, or are you further up Dahlia?
We're on the corner of Dahlia and Grove. He's further up the hill from us.
Meaning, I don't know, can you come
He's
up
at
and show us on this plan where you are?
389 on the map, Sherry, on Dahlia, across the street.
Just identify where you are, and then John, tell me what he's pointing to.
Right, so this is,
So-
my home is the
There's a-
second one up the hill across the street.
So you're 389.
389, yeah, lot 389.
And can you tell me your name for the record, sir?
Yes, it's Howard, and last name Loreee.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you right there, 389.
Right. So the point is that all these three lots that are being combined would be supporting one house.
Yes,
And then the existing house, of course, would stand alone, so
yes,
there would only be one more house on all that land.
that's correct.
Oh, I see, okay. The other concern that I had was that there's a lot of water that comes down Washington Street. It's a kind of a runoff, and is that something that influences the buildability of those lots? And how would that be managed?
Through the chair to the applicant, have you done any testing or deep hole testing or investigation about whether the lot will support building?
If he wouldn't be able to build on it, he didn't want to go through that
Spend the money.
expense and time to
So-
not have
So
it.
it's basically septic design that's going to affect.
So to answer your question, there's no way of knowing that just yet. If the groundwater is high, or if the runoff is significant, it's possible that the soils won't support a septic system, and even if we give him a favorable vote, he won't be able to build on it. But these days, there's a whole lot of technology they use to allow all sorts of odd septic systems, or, I don't know, things they can do with septic systems. So he may be able to get a septic system on here. Legally, he can't divert any runoff from his lot to anyone else's lot.
Right.
And very often, in designing a septic system on a property that has runoff coming from elsewhere, the boards are very careful in asking them to do something with culverts or retentions or drainage in order to kind of make the problem less, not worse.
Sure.
I don't know how to answer your question, that's not our purview here.
Sure, so those are my only concerns, just how many homes, and then whether there would be, a further review of how a septic could be built in.
Right, I believe
that
the
situation.
Board of Health would have to sign off on any septic
Right.
system or design.
Okay. All right, thanks.
You're welcome, thank you for coming. In February of 2013, there's a certificate of vote, Article 10, establishing tax title of butter lot sales program. And does your deed in February of 13 have any restrictions that I haven't picked up yet?
I do not believe so.
I seem to have lost my place when I got to that spot. Anyone
Are there
have that?
restrictions on the butters lots of building them?
Well, the only thing that I see that, I have the deed here, it says that, you know, that little, the smaller one, which is what, 365, which is the only one that came on that program. You know, you can't build the house on it other than, quote, add an addition that might go onto it. But
I'm sorry, I
it
was
says,
reading.
it says that the property that 365 is only gonna be used for garden, side yard, landscaped, open space, off-street parking, garage, septic improvements, or in addition to the existing structure.
Where is that, on the deed?
Yeah.
Can you-
Line
can you-
number 3 at the bottom.
Direct me to the deed, I can't.
Is that as it stands, if it stood alone, but
No,
combined?
as it's being combined into the lot next to it, which is the.
So it still can only, you know, you can't
Well, you can
build,
build the house and then put an addition on it afterwards.
Right.
Right.
You can't put, you probably wouldn't put the house on that anyway, because it's so
No.
small and close to the property.
well, it's
line.
gonna be all one lot if it's sold as one lot, so they could.
But there are gonna be some restrictions on where they can put the house, they're gonna
Right,
have to.
right, right.
And then does
Can
that?
I see that, John?
The last number on the bottom.
Number 3.
Right.
When I purchased it, they said I could build a garage on it, anything anything that didn't have water.
So you could, you have the first 2 lots,
What is that?
that's where the house
Because it
goes, and
abuts
then the other
two.
one's just additional land for
Correct.
Exactly,
septic or
exactly.
garage or whatever you want.
Right.
Right. I mean, they just a diagonal from my house, they
Like,
put 2
you can
houses on
expand a septic,
a
but this
lot,
house, no septic on it.
a lot smaller than that one,
Same deed, I've been reading it. and I didn't
with a
catch
shared
that.
septic system.
Wow.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
But there
According to
were 2
this,
houses on that lot.
Excuse me,
a
Mr.
little-
Mr. Hartwell, board member next, go ahead.
according to this, is a deed restriction that basically says you can't build a house on it. If they were to sell these 3 lots off separately, does that deed restriction carry over?
Yes,
Can't
it
sell-
does.
yeah. You can't sell the last one they got from the town
Yeah.
separate, because that definitely got.
I'm talking about
that
these
definitely
3 that
combined.
are combined.
But he
So
could
doesn't
still
this
build
kinda-
on it, he just can't build anything on that part of the property.
Right.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, but
right,
you
the
can't-
parcel.
But yet,
No, because lot 365 is the big lot.
Yeah. That's something-
no,
He
that's the
would-
little one.
What's the-
65 is
Oh,
the
right,
little lot, it's
365
that little
is the
back
little
lot.
Well,
That's the little one.
number 2 is combining those 3 lots, but not the 30 Dahlia Drive.
Correct.
Number 3 sounds like a deed restriction that says you can't build a house on it.
Only on 365.
Only on
But
that
if,
one
but what
lot.
happens if they all combine now and
Well,
become one lot?
The other
If
2
two
were not bought on
combined
the
it-
same plan.
If 2 combined it, then I would say 3 talks about those 3, number 3 talks about the 3 lots combined.
I don't agree with you, because in legal language, if you look up that certain parcel of land, blah, 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 shown as lot 365, hereinafter the, quote, property. So it says the property has to be combined, and the property may only be used. The property references lot 365 only. And shame on the town if they didn't mean that, because that's what this
That's
says.
how I read it.
With that, only that 365
Only
is, it
365
has the
has
restriction,
that restriction. The other 2 lots have, can do whatever you want.
because it's combined.
I'd like to see the deed for 366.
He's basically saying, so if that's the case, then you can use the 2 front, you just can't put anything, it would have to just be yard frontage.
Still put the garage there, that's things you put there.
366 was acquired in 2013.
It's really too wide.
No. Is that the small lot?
No.
Yeah, the small lot,
The small lot, yeah.
89.
Right. You need 341?
89 came from,
If that's lot 341, that was the. Palm
89 was the
River.
small one next to it, the Dahlia Drive.
That was the Pauline Hooper lot.
And that came
66
from
was
Littleton.
1990.
Now, is it tax levy, is there any restrictions on that deed?
Yeah, that's the one I want to see, the 1990 deed, no.
Yeah.
366 came from Town of Littleton in 90, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Let me see that deed. $366, this is that deed. And this deed does not say that 366 has any restrictions.
It was a different program, wasn't part of the, it wasn't bought under the,
That was just a straight tax title purchase.
So that was another thing that, and this is 1990? It's another thing that, if the land merged during the town's ownership, it doesn't merge. So if the town owned two lots at the same time, for tax title, they don't merge. So the question is, if he bought a tax title lot as the trustee in 90, when the doctrine of merger wasn't widely accepted as case law, does that preserve its independence? And this is 1990, so she says the vote was, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, is authorized to sell at public auction or private sale all or any of the property acquired by virtue for non-payment of taxes, which sales have been confirmed by the land court of the tax commissioner, so it wasn't restricted in any way when he bought it. And that one, when he bought it, didn't touch his
No, he,
house at 342. It's really an interesting case. I'm perplexed.
Yeah, there's no clear case law
No.
on this kind of a specific
I
situation.
will say as a member of this board, I would prefer to wiggle my, if we're going to give the gentleman relief, I would prefer, the couple relief, sorry.
Thank you.
I would prefer to wiggle my way into an interpretation of the merger doctrine rather than do it by variance. I think that by granting a variance, we fly smack dab in the face of the planning board and the subdivision rules and regulations in this town. I don't
so
think
you're
we
going
can do
back
that.
to when the trust was established, that there wasn't the doctrine that was there to basically say that these were merging in.
If we're going to go that direction, that's where I would like to come down on. I do not want to grant this by variance. Because then everybody could come in and say, you
Absolutely.
granted a variance to
Yep.
this one. I want every 27,000 or 8 or 10,000 square foot lot to be granted a variance.
and plus there's no real basis for variance.
There's no basis, no hardship. You're
No
correct.
hardship.
You're correct. That's even more important.
I think my only question would be that a butter's lot, as far as, because those were intended to sort of help supplement smaller lots to make them larger. Is there a way, if we move forward, that we can say, how do we address that so that all of a sudden a builder doesn't come back and now he needs a variance because he wants to be within that?
I think one way you address it is you say that unlike subsequent lot sales and tax title sales, there was no restriction on this lot, with the exception that it be merged with the other two vacant lots and not with the house. There's no restriction on 366.
Right,
And the
absolutely.
restriction on
I think mine's more like, how do you address the 365 in the future for someone who's wanting to build on it? So once are you saying that merging with the other two, that now there's no more restrictions on it?
Oh, I suppose, I suppose we could confirm the restriction that's on it, because the only way to get to this result is to say that, going by the deed that the town signed, they, by their own terms, didn't merge it with his house lot, but it did merge with the other two, and the restriction stands
Okay.
as to 365.
I guess I'm just planning for the future if somebody comes in to build and all of a sudden they want to use that property and that they can't come back to ask us for relief from it because knowing that it's got a restriction on it.
Yeah, and I think we confirm it if we make a decision in that direction. I'm also, finding it very curious that the town, and this is a sort of an argument I think I would assert, finding it very curious that the town did not convey to Linda and Vernon as trustees. They conveyed to Vernon as a trustee. And to the extent that Linda's not named, they're not really the identical interest of Linda and Vernon as joint tenants on the abutting property. And I think in the Equal Rights Amendment, that case in 89 talked about husband and wife as being of one mind. But we all know that husbands and wives are no longer of one mind.
No.
Ever. And so I think there's an argument to be made
Obviously,
also.
I'm not married.
43 years.
40, almost 40 here.
I don't know,
Yeah, I can't speak to why that deed only listed Vernon.
two deeds. Two
And if you look
deeds.
at the property card, only his name's on it.
I'd want to hang my hat on that.
As far as the trust goes, I am the president of the trust, and my wife is secretary or
I think you
treasurer.
need to stop talking
Yeah.
about the trust.
Okay.
I need to go back one more time to the deed from Hooper. Who did she deed to?
The 341 lot.
Right. I think that was to both of you.
Just Vernon,
It was just Vernon. Okay.
just Vernon. I'd like to take the position that according to the deeds, Vernon is the sole trustee of the Rainy Day Realty Trust.
We will accept that position.
Yes.
Even though paperwork shows it's different.
What paperwork, no paperwork
There's
in
no
front of
paperwork
us
for
says
trust.
it's different. It's just a recitation in Council's letter that he says they're the trustees, but then in the end, he says, I asked for information and didn't get it. Theoretically, under this chain of title, Vernon could go behind his wife's back and sell that property to you, and she wouldn't be the wiser. And I say, under that scenario, she doesn't control these lots the way she does the house. Because the chain of title doesn't read her name on it.
On any of the three properties, her name is not
That's what I
on
was
it.
just looking for. None of the three properties name her.
But the trustee names her.
Not necessarily. We don't know that for sure.
We don't know that for sure.
She could be like a backup trustee, not full.
But even if she's named as a trustee, on the record, Vernon is holding the title to these properties and probably could get away with selling them out from under her or mortgaging them.
So you're saying it's a separate entity then?
Yeah, one's a.
That's what it looks to
one's
me
my
like on
trust.
paper. I don't know. That's what's in front of us. He's the sole trustee on each of the deeds.
But he controls all the lots
It's considered.
He has three lots.
and his other one.
Well,
No,
he
but
needs-
together they control the other one.
he needs
Right.
wife approval to do anything with the other one.
And
And
that
that's
lot,
news to me about the trust.
342 says it's both of them on there. Do we,
The home lot.
The house
Yeah,
lot.
house lot.
That should be here too. Can we look at that?
30 Dahlia, is that the one you're talking
Yeah.
about, the house lot? That's to Linda and Vernon,
Yep. Our names are on that one.
right?
and you couldn't sell 42 without Linda's
They're on
permission?
as tenants by the entirety.
They're tenants by the entirety on that deed.
Yeah, so you need her permission.
Want to poll? What do you think?
I have, because that lot, the combined lots are consistent with the rest of the neighborhood, I don't think there's an issue.
Okay.
I think it makes sense that, because in 89, when they put the trust together, it was their understanding that it would be a separate entity. I think the one I'm having the hard time is the last lot. But then again, that last lot combines all three together.
The last lot
Correct.
being,
Yes.
So if
The
365
2000
hadn't
the
been,
2013 deed.
the 2013 deed basically combines all three lots by the town's own, by the town's paperwork.
but that's also 360, which one is 2000?
So 41
365 is the one she's talking
and
about.
66 were basically by themselves in the trust.
Correct.
It wasn't until they bought the abutters lot, which was 65, that transaction then combined all three together
Correct. As a condition of the purchase of 365.
as a condition of the purchase. So it almost, I think that's where I'm stuck.
Why you're stuck?
Because,
That's what
It
they're asking
combined
for.
those three in the trust, but only those three lots, not
Says nothing
$30.
about 340.
I know, but here's my understanding of the abutters lots and why, one, they're priced the way they are. I mean, they're meant to go with those properties that are basically an established lot, right? That the homeowner owns. I don't know.
You mean the merger doctrine in general?
Yeah, well, no, the whole program
the
of the
town-
abutters
Oh, the
lots.
town
The
program.
intention
Program
of those
the
lots.
butters lots. But they did follow their protocol. They said, Rainy Day Trust is the abutter, and we intend that this go with the abutting lots of Rainy Day Trust, not the abutting lots of Rainy Day Trust's trustees and beneficiaries home next door.
Okay, so in other words, somebody who owns a property, even though there's nothing built on it, they can buy an abutters lot and put it together, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and the deed will say, not a separate building lot, you've got to merge it with your contiguous lot.
Okay.
Which is exactly what they said to Rainy Day Trust in 2013.
Okay,
And had they intended, I think by the statement that they made, they prevented the merger. They
okay,
didn't say merge it with your house lot, and could have, but they didn't.
okay. I just want to make sure that when the lot was bought, they weren't assuming, the town wasn't assuming that they owned all three and they all had merged together, so now we're gonna give you the abutter 65 lot.
And I say to you, they couldn't have intended that because they didn't specify it. It was
Okay.
very specific in their deed, merge it with these other two assessor lots.
Okay.
And if you look up Hartwell in the assessor's database, Vernon Hartwell comes up first, before Linda, on all of the lots, including the house lot. So had the deed from the selectmen intended it to merge with the house, it was right there in front of them.
Okay,
And they didn't call out that lot, they called out the other two.
Okay.
The Vernon Hartwell trustee of Rainy Day Trust, too. They didn't call out the third one,
okay.
I mean, the house lot. Do you
That makes
accept that?
Yeah, I accept that.
And John, what do you think?
I'm of mind to go along. I believe the combined three pieces of property, not including the house, the other three pieces of property are in size with what's going on around it. And, I don't see any reason why it couldn't go that way. I
Well,
think
due
that-
to the wording, though.
So I would like to comment to the board that the abutting characteristics of the neighborhood are irrelevant here. We're not in a variant situation where you say there's no detriment to the public good and no substantial derogation from the intent and purpose. That's not where we are. Where we are is we're sitting on a letter from council that says it merged and there's no two ways about it. So building inspector says, I deny you the buildability of that lot. And now we are here on an appeal from the building inspector. And what we have to do is overturn the building inspector's determination for a reason. And to me, the strongest reason is the town, by its own statement, directed the merger of three lots and not the fourth.
Correct.
And I think that's the strongest argument. I think coupled with that argument is your statement, I'm just going to write it down so when I write the decision, I can get it, town directed the merger of 3, not 4. And your statement that 89, using the best legal advice and practices, they were advised by council to create a separate holding entity for that parcel.
As well as the 366 to 90, I would feel that they both fall under that.
The record reflects only one trustee. I'm going to add that because I think hypothetically, he could convey that lot successfully without her joining in. And in that regard, I don't think there's a combination of control here. She and he control one differently than he controls these. It's my belief. Anything else? And we had an abutter, he's gone now,
He's left.
but we had an abutter whose only concern was that there be only one lot, or one house, right? And the building inspector didn't appear to defend, right? Or write something? And nothing
Yeah.
on the variance.
Did she vote?
Yeah.
It's in the litter.
I want to read it into the record, John.
This must be February 20th. 30 Dahlia Drive. She's talking about the 3 parcels. Applicant seeks a variance from section 173-11, isolated lots and subdivision of property. Brief history of when Vernon and Linda purchased 30 Dahlia Drive, then 89, where the Hartwells established a rainy day realty trust. When they bought 341, 1990, the trust bought 366, and 2013, the trust purchased the land 365 from the town of Butter Sales Program. Saying that at that point, 341, 366, and 365 were conveyed in tandem into the same recordship owner. They became, those 3 became, and he goes on to talk about the petitioners are owners at 30 Dahlia Drive and have submitted a small lot determination in November of 2018. They're also trustees and beneficiaries of the Rainy Day Realty Trust. The Hartwells did not dispute the fact that the 3 parcels combined for zoning. The reason for the variance request is because town council finds that the merger documents combined the 3 parcels and 30 Dahlia Drive. Hartwells are requesting relief from the section 173-11, as it was their belief that the creation of the Rainy Day Trust in 1889 would keep the land parcels separate from 30 Dahlia Drive and be grandfathered pursuant to MGL 40A subsection 6.
So we didn't say
No
one way or
further
the other.
comment.
Didn't say one way or the other, so he's not really defending his position, so I'm okay with, I feel okay with overturning it because it wasn't a strong defense of the position.
Well, no,
Neither is the building
building
inspector.
inspector's just saying, the council told me to do it.
Right. I would like 2 votes tonight. I would like a vote on the variance, so let's do that first. John, you want to do a motion to deny based on there being no hardship?
We need to close the hearing first.
Okay, thank you. Of
Move
course.
to close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And before we begin, you're okay with us voting tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I move that we deny the variance based on the fact that there is no hardship shown.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, Julian, you want to try a motion?
Sure. So then if it's not it's not a variance, it's gonna be a special permit.
No,
No.
it's a grant of an appeal.
It's a grant of an appeal, okay. So I make a motion to grant the appeal of Vernon Hartwell, singular.
Appeal of the zoning officer's
The zoning
Decision.
officer's decision for parcels 341, 365, and 366 on map U19.
U-17.
Oh, U17, sorry.
The board finding that
The board finding that there was no merger
with,
with,
of those three lots.
of those
with-
three lots with 342,
Yeah, 30 Dahlia Drive.
30 Dahlia Drive,
342.
as there were two separate entities. Is this what we're going with?
Because there were two separate entities, because the town
And on,
directed merger of the three lots, but not 30 Dahlia Drive.
correct. That with the purchase of 365, it directed the combination of 341, 365, and 366.
Yeah.
Not with 340.
But not with 342. It's-
And,
Do we need to mention with the
yes,
restriction of
yes.
365,
yes.
that it not,
But-
that it follows the deed
but-
restrictions?
But that the restriction of lot 365 shall remain in force and effect.
Let me say that, that the deed restriction of 365 is still in effect.
If you're done, I'll second.
Do you want a second?
Missing anything else?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None. Thank you, board. That was hard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Close the meeting?
You can move to close. You're welcome. You
want a
too.
second?
Second.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You know, we.